course, Jonathan, we do know that talent in South Africa is quite scarce. There is being pulled from all sides. How do you manage that process and retain South African talent?
In some respects, it's become easier to retain South African talent in South Africa. In fact, we've got South Africans, as you know, coming back, which is good news for our organizations. But it's a matter of identifying talent, as Steve has said, ensuring that the talented people are valued and know their future lies with the organization. But there's another aspect which is broader than individual HR management. It's creating a context, an environment, a company in which people are treasured and feel they're treasured and want to work. So I think the clever organizations are creating loyalty at the moment by the way they engage with their people, individually and as an organization, and by coming across to the employees as winning organizations. It's very interesting how people are attracted by salary and so on, but even more or at least as much by the perceived status of the organization. Am I joining a winning team, a place where I'm going to be proud to be employed and where I can make a contribution? And I think the temptation in downtimes is that the HR manager can become, or director can become, caught up with the numbers, because that's very immediate, and she or he has to be concerned with that. But the HR person has to champion the soft side of the business, and should do so, I think, without apology. We are creating a culture in this organization where it's good to work, where good people come, and that's very often intangible. And
Well, I see you nodding, Jill. I mean, do you agree? Are we creating enough organizations like that, though?
I really agree with the point, and actually in these difficult times, it's really great opportunities for organizations to win the loyalty and trust of their people over even more so than in good times. And you do that through things like having a value proposition that you don't compromise on. So for example, at Accenture, development of our people's capabilities is a promise that we make to our people. And last year we spent almost $800 million on training, and because we have a commitment to develop our people. And that's a commitment that is for today and for tomorrow. Additionally, a lot of companies did a really good job of communicating with their people and being transparent about where they're at, what it means in terms of compensation. That wins people's trust, and so they're more willing to stick with you, through the ups and downs. So I think it's about having a value proposition and setting expectations of one another, and I think companies can come out of this with a much more dedicated and loyal workforce.
Elsie, just looking at Eskom as an example, and we know that Eskom is often in the headlines because it's putting up electricity tariffs, is seen as one of those big, mean organizations. How do you create a warm environment where the staff want to work in when you are under the public spotlight so often?
I think what's key is employee engagement. I agree with my colleagues. What we found last year, we went through a very tough time. And when we looked at our turnover last year, it dropped. And one of the assumptions we're making is that when people can see value in terms of they can see their personal value in an organization, they are likely to stay. Our challenge was then, how do we engage our employees further to make sure that they can see their success, their own personal success in the success of the organization? Much as it has been tough, we are seeing a move where people are beginning to sort of say, my value system matches that of an organization. And it goes to show in terms of your remuneration strategies can go up to a point. But if you can be able to give people hope and give them a view that there's a bigger purpose in terms of what they are doing, I think that's the key. So we are currently focusing on employee engagement programs to make sure that we share all the information, even the information previously we thought might be confidential, and make sure that our people can be able to engage at dinner tables in terms of what's happening in the organization.
And is that working for Eskom?
We don't have results yet. We're still battling currently, but our only gauge at the moment is the fact that the people are staying, and they had an option of moving before the financial crisis. The fact that they're staying and they remain committed and they're willing to give more hours, it indicates there's some progress. Well,
Steve, just picking up on some of your earlier points, just on where HR should be focused, do you think that it's too often bogged down by administration and transactional work?
I think that is the case. The sad part of that whole thing is that there's the aspiration, and then there's the delivery against that aspiration, and that's that gap which exists so often. And hence, what we really need to be doing is making sure that transactional HR work takes place and is dealt with in an industrialized way. We need to move that out of the agenda from the strategic perspective of the HR strategic leaders. And the same thing from an operational point of view, and making sure that the operational HR people are dealing with the operational issues, the transactional components are being dealt with in the most effective possible way, and then from a strategic point of view that sufficient time is available to deal with that. And our research shows that, that's not the case in general. That the HR leadership is very often involved in the operation and often even the tactical components. And so the opportunity exists, and most certainly does exist, and we see it in certain organizations which take seriously the opportunity to sort out their processes, to build the right capabilities within the HR people, and to make sure that they've got the right systems in place to drive forward the opportunity for the HR function to really deliver where it could add most value.
Well, we have to leave it there for the moment. After the break, we continue our discussion on HR delivering business results. We'll see you after this.